welcome to Recollections May Vary, a royal recap. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and back by popular demand, a very well-respected journalist and author, Maureen Callahan. I'm sure you've heard of her. Maureen, you're my absolute favorite, and it's by sheer luck that Meghan Markle's podcast teaser drops today when we're supposed to engage with each other. I know that you just stopped everything you were doing to listen to what the greatness that is Confessions of a Female Founder. Talk to me about your reaction to that podcast teaser.
First of all, Kinsey, thank you as always for that lovely introduction. The feeling is mutual. So the teaser, the gods are smiling upon us.
Yes.
The sun is shining, at least in my neck of the woods. I got about halfway through this teaser before my computer actually just spontaneously shut off, right? It's like it spontaneously combusted from the bowl that she's spewing. So what I love about it is it shares with the Netflix show this kind of jaunty soundtrack where you've got like the duster cymbals going like we're just up to some whimsy and mischief over here, right? And she's talking a bunch of vague nonsense about talking to female founders about their highs and their lows. But the money quote is one unnamed founder says to her, quote, "I'd rather stand for something than sell a whole bunch of nothing."
Oh.
Which to me sounds like an arrow directed straight where Meghan Markle's heart should be. Because we're seeing right now with the monetizing of brand Sussex, the selling of the pots and the oven mitts and the God knows what else, that Meghan will sell anything while standing for, in my opinion, nothing. I don't know. What do you think?
No, that's a very good point. Yeah. Does she realize that that quote reflects exactly what we've seen unfold in this really messy launch of multiple brands within a very short period of time? I mean, I think the only thing interesting about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, but mostly Meghan Markle, is her lack of self-awareness. She was a bull in a china shop when she entered the royal fold, and we love a hot mess. So that was interesting to watch and to dissect. But I feel like she's going to put me out of business soon here if she continues to be so boring. I mean, even her new store, that where earns commission based on sales, you and I could walk into the Gap and find this same linen top on the clearance rack and spend less than half of the amount of money she's asking for the products she's selling on Instagram right now, which is currently down. So thoughts and prayers to Meghan Markle that Instagram is currently down. I hope she's okay. But I just don't see, it looks so messy. And I do feel, and I've used this word a couple of times over the last few days, I do feel like she's overexposed right now. And it just is going to rub some people the wrong way. Do you disagree?
Oh, I love the back-to-back, the launch of the Netflix special, which, it as we predicted, had the initial rubbernecking numbers and then flopped and dropped right out of the top 10. I loved the news that dropped last week that she is yet again having trouble with the US Patent Office trademarking her new brand name as ever. I mean, like, okay, so the next thing I want to do is listen to her advice on a boring podcast about how to launch a successful company. She can't even get the shit off the ground. And by the way,
Yeah.
I would also love a deep dive into who is manufacturing the products she's selling. What's the child labor involved? I guarantee you, it's again
Yes.
just supposition, but they're being made, I'm guessing, in a third world country or in some factory in China. I doubt they're American made products. Like all of it is just, the veil just continues to crumble and crumble and crumble. And she seems to be the only one who's not getting the memo.
She's totally oblivious. Now, when you think about her Shop My webpage that she launched yesterday, where she gets commission off of some, a $500 handbag, a $500 necklace that her girlfriend Abigail Spencer designed. There's
An
been some
actress, by the way.
criticisms.
That's not a jewelry designer. She's an actress.
Yeah, exactly. From Suits. When you
Mhm.
think about, well, the Sun is blatantly calling her out on the cover of their paper today, because not only does she launch this basically this influencer commission-based site, but she posts a picture of Archie and Lily, and the son is basically like, you did this on purpose to attract attention to your page because you're trying to hawk, you're trying to shill merch. Is it fair to criticize Meghan Markle, who has previously, she lied about when Archie was born? They blatantly lied to the media when Archie was born. They were like, oh, Archie was just born. They were already back home in Windsor by the time that they announced his birth. They've been so fiercely protective, I say skeptically, about their children previously. And now it feels so icky watching her parade them around to launch as ever. There's a picture of Lily on the landing page of as ever. We saw her go on Drew Barrymore and say, oh, my kids cooked these cookies, and show these additional photos. And it's especially annoying to me. I don't care about her kids. I could care less about her children. But it annoys me because I defended them so much when it came to their kids' privacy. I said, let them. Like if they don't want to show us their kids, let them. But now it feels like they're doing this tease where it's only the back of the head or the hand. And I just want to say, either put them away and claim that you are protecting their privacy, which is an understandable argument. But the teasing, psychologically, you have to understand that that's going to make people even more curious about your children, and you would jeopardize the safety you say that you would jeopardize the safety you say you've tried to protect over the last few years to sell a freaking trench coat. I mean, it just makes me angry.
It just gets again to the nothing she does. The only constant with Meghan is rank hypocrisy. So initially they had to flee Buckingham Palace for their lives because not even the palace had the apparatus to protect them and their then child from all manner of threats, what have you. So they go to Montecito. Now, again, this is just my opinion. I'm not a doctor, but I think Meghan is a malignant narcissist. And anyone who has experience with a narcissistic mother will know the children are props. They are extensions of the mother. They're not fully realized individuals. Meghan's got some stuff to sell. And what she's trying to sell, and it's a hard sell, is domesticity, familial warmth. And what better way to do that than to bring out the children? We, again, only get to see the backs of their heads or maybe a tiny little hand here, or we get an anecdote on the Drew Barrymore show. My favorite was when Drew and Meghan were cooking, and Drew said, do your children have any Britishisms, right? Meghan Markle reacted as though these were people she has a passing acquaintance with, her own children. She goes, oh,
Yeah.
well, I mean, they have some of their father's accent, so they'll say something like zebra. And then you could see the eyes going up and searching. Do I have another anecdote? Do I have another little example? I don't. I'm shorting out. And then she goes, so yeah, I think zebra's a good one. And she looks at the audience who is all cued to applaud. And it's like, who can possibly relate?
No, not me. I can assure you, not me. I am not the target audience. Now, what about the idea of merching the monarchy? I mean, I think I would be willing to defend her on having this affiliate links outlet, because I always predicted she would do this. I feel like I would be much more willing to defend her if she wasn't using her title on this page. It's just, this is one of the agreements that you made with the palace when you stepped back as a working member of the royal family, and probably one of the reasons that they did not absolutely bury you when you left, because you were told you could not, specifically, you couldn't use Sussex Royal, and you couldn't use this title that the Queen gave you under the impression that you were going to leave this world behind and become a working royal and live this life of service. The Queen gifted you this title to do that work, not to sell Tupperware. And now she's got Duchess of Sussex slapped across this My Shop page or Shop My page. And it feels like a dagger, and the poor queen who tried to make Megxit as easy as possible. It was a very difficult situation.
So remember the stated premise of the Netflix show, which is Meghan likes to elevate the ordinary and the everyday.
Yeah.
Talk about devaluing a royal title by slapping your name, your title across some crap cookery. Are you kidding me? And the Queen, I believe, and William and Kate had her number from the jump because we just learned this week the famous magazine editor Graydon Carter, who edited Vanity Fair back when it mattered, back when it was a magazine people read and talked about and it generated headlines. He's got a book out and he was talking about the Meghan Markle cover, which she was an unknown. He said
Mm-hmm.
an editor came in and pitched to him, we should put Meghan Markle on the cover. He says, who's that? She says, well, she's an actress on the show Suits. He says, what's that show? I've never heard of it. Why are we putting this woman on the cover? The editor says she's going to marry Prince Harry. Okay, she gets the cover. He tells us that during the interview, the profile that this woman has been waiting her entire life for, she is being anointed. She is going to become a global superstar based on making a marriage. She says to the journalist interviewing her, excuse me, is this interview going to be all about Prince Harry? Because, I really thought it would be about me and my charity work and my endeavors and my interests. And it's like, there it is. There it is.
Yeah, because he also said years ago, Mr. Carter, that Harry and Meghan risk overexposure. He says this years ago. They have too much attention. For people like that, unavailability is your greatest asset. If you're out there too much, the public has a chance to get sick of you. I think they've made every wrong move you can make. That's what I feel like I'm witnessing right now. Back to back panic announcements that Meghan has changed the name of her brand that she announced a year ago, that she's postponed a show because of a fire, releases the show within days of it being absolutely destroyed by critics. She announces a new podcast and a second season of the show that's been absolutely destroyed on Rotten Tomatoes. And you're just like, this is overexposure. But when you were reading that article, did it occur to you when the Booker's pitching Mr. Carter about Meghan for the cover that it was not known publicly that Harry and Meghan were engaged? So it's my guess that Sunshine Sachs whispered that in their ear. And if that is the truth, that you used Harry to secure this cover, then realistically, what did you think they were going to want to talk about?
Also,
Sorry.
this is a great, I love this thread because I have a couple of questions. I don't necessarily believe that Harry and Meghan were secretly engaged when she landed that cover. Do I believe Meghan heavily implied it and used that cover to lock it down? Perhaps, perhaps. Let's also remember that after that cover came out and it was a beautiful shot of her, it was a profile that just simply sang her praises as what a breath of fresh air this woman would be to a monarchy, a biracial divorced American. Wow, like a career woman, what that would be. What does Meghan do? Immediately bites the hand that feeds her. Excuse me, there may have been a little bit of a time lapse, but she says the cover line, which read, she's just wild about Harry, was racist.
Yeah. Yeah, no, sorry. That's Judy Garland is Hollywood royalty. And it was, somebody pointed this out to me. I'd completely forgotten it. Aside from not believing it's racist and loving Judy Garland and that just whatever, it was a different time. I also forgot that when Harry was born, that was one of the headlines they put along with a picture of Princess Diana and Prince Harry. Now, had Meghan known that, I think she would have eaten it up. But because she was just constantly looking for issues and she is never happy, yeah, of course, she's going to claim that it's racist and that And ultimately, I think that her real irritation was that they didn't include more of her charity focused talking points. Specifically, remember in Tom Bower's book, they say that she personally called the author of that piece and said, I was planning on being friends with you, but because you excluded this from the profile, I don't think I could be friends with you. And he was like, our fact checkers couldn't confirm it. I can't just throw your dish soap story in Vanity Fair, a highly celebrated publication. I can't just throw it in there for your ego trip.
What a loss, by the way. You don't get to be friends with Meghan Markle. You don't get to be friends with one of what, in my estimation, is one of the most dishonest, calculating, social climbing, fake people we have ever seen on the global stage in quite a long time. That journalist must have been devastated. And by the way, memo to Meghan Markle, real journalists don't want to be your friend. They're there to do a job. They're there to write about you for an audience and let the audience decide if they like you or not. That's not the remit. So, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think that I would be too devastated by that phone call either. I have
Imagine,
the
she
thought,
sounds like an eighth grader. I'm not going to be your friend now. You didn't do what I wanted you to do. Are you kidding me? You're about to become a major royal, and this is your concern. You got a big puff piece in a glossy US magazine that got picked up all over the world. The reason, as you just said, they couldn't do a focus on her charity work. I don't know, Kinsey, how long has she been in the public spotlight now? 12 years. I could not tell you what she does for charity. I have no earthly idea. Diana's been dead for what, 30 years? I could tell you a million things she did.
mhm, exactly. That's such a good point. Meghan, what does she do? I mean, I know that she showed up in Uvalde, but I don't,
Oh, she called
with
Adam Levine
sandwiches.
to get Billie Eilish to get some merch to a kid who lost her home in the fires. Never forget.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to forget. I'm trying. As I was walking through this process of the podcast and listening to the podcast trailer in my head, I really feel like she did this backwards. And I said something similar to Jenny Bond a few weeks ago, who's another royal commentator, and she dismissed me. But I guess, I don't know. Maybe we're not friends anymore. I don't know. But my
Oh,
thoughts were, it would have been so much more interesting to me if it was flipped around, where Megan's TV show was about the build of a podcast. And Megan, docu-series style, sat there and said, I screwed up with Spotify. I'm going to walk you through how I screwed up with Spotify, and I'm going to build this new podcast with Lemonada, and and you're going to watch me screw up again, but I'm going to, we never see those humble moments from her that might change some people's hearts about her. It's just like you said, she wants to give us advice on how to build a business when she screws up at every turn and might make a quick reference about it to People magazine, but otherwise is completely delusional when it comes to her own accomplishments.
well, again, I think, Kinsey, the reason why you would never see a behind the scenes about the making of is because, like all narcissists, again, my opinion, narcissists never take the blame. They are never
Yeah.
wrong. It's always somebody else's fault. That's why the burn and churn with her staff. It's always somebody else's fault. Now, were she actually really deeply involved in the making of this podcast, you would have something to work with. But I suspect very much like the first iteration of her podcast, what was that called? Was it just called Megan?
Archetypes.
Thank you. Thank you.
That is
Archetypes.
so funny. I mean, you're making a very good point that by now she's had so many brands, so many different projects, so many names that we're losing count. It's overwhelming, and she seems all over the place, and I'm exhausted for her.
I mean, when you texted me that initial announcement, Confessions of a Female Founder, my initial reaction was, founder of what? What
Yeah.
have you founded? What have you built from the ground up? It's a heavy lift to build a business from the ground up. And everything we heard from the people who worked on the initial Archetypes podcast was that Meghan did zero work. She barely did any interviews. There were people who conducted those interviews behind the scenes and then like wrote questions in for Meghan to loop in afterwards. So and she also just lacks a complete interest in other human beings, which is essential if you're going to do a show that is about interviewing other people and finding out what makes them tick. You have to really like other people and be interested in them and want to hear their stories and maybe learn something. But because Meghan Markle, from everything we've heard, knows it all, can't tell her a thing, has built failure after failure, but thinks that these Pyrrhic victories are leading her onward to ever greater things. We all know what we're going to get with this thing. I mean, it will be a rubbernecker's experience for episode 1, and then everybody will drop off.
I mean, I'm even wondering if I have the patience to listen to episode 1. It seemed so dull based on that teaser. It was somebody's job with the objective of creating something that would lure a new audience to edit this piece that was released, knowing that thousands, hundreds of thousands of people were going to listen to it. And I have absolutely no desire to listen to it. But I will say, I did think, and maybe to your point, she was in a booth by herself. But I did feel like on listening just to the teaser alone, she sounded much friendlier than I heard her sound in the past and more engaged. But you're right to bring up the accusations that, and this is from producers online. Some producers online said that they would actually physically go do the interviews for archetypes, and then they would drop Meghan's audio in later over their questions. Uh, and then, do you remember how she had 17 producers on each episode? I mean, that's
That's a huge
absolutely
amount.
ludicrous.
That's a huge amount for a podcast to have 17 producers. And by the way, you're right about the voiceover that she's doing for this teaser, but honestly, it makes the back of my teeth ache when I hear her. It's so sugary, it's so fake. It's like and it's also vague. It's like, okay, we're going to talk about the high highs. Voice goes up and the low lows. Voice. I mean, she's that literal. Everything with her is literal to the extreme. And I also think if she had any guest with any degree of star power, and she wants the Sarah
Reese
Blakely's of the
Witherspoon.
world,
Yeah.
the Emma Grede, if I'm saying her right, who works with the Kardashians and helped found Good American. Those are the women you want to reach your generational cohort, as well as the women a little bit above, the women a little bit younger. We're not seeing any star names teased in this trailer. Am I right?
No, I mean, I suspect we'll see Victoria Jackson, her friend who she's been friends with for a few years, out of Montecito, who I don't know except for an association with Meghan Markle, but apparently she's a makeup
What is her
mogul.
company? I forget.
I don't know. I know
You
she
see what
does
I mean?
makeup, but yeah,
You said
but do you
Victoria.
remember
I
how she
thought
went?
Victoria Beckham. Victoria
Yeah.
Beckham. Right? Us, like, these are the people that you would think Harry and Meghan would be running around with in Montecito, the money, the powerful, the connected, the successful. They're not there.
Yeah, well, that's a great point, because as I was watching the first season of With Love Meghan, another name we have to remember, where was Tyler Perry? Where was Oprah
Mhm.
Winfrey? Where was Gayle King? Where were all of these A-listers? And remember when she went to the G9 summit in the Hamptons, and she went with the woman, and I'm so sorry I forgot her name because I do think she's a sweet woman, who founded It Cosmetics.
Mhm.
That she I remember like the infomercials, watching her on the infomercials. She used to be an anchor, and she had like a birthmark on her face, so she developed this incredible makeup to cover the birthmark on her face or something like that. But Meghan flew to the Hamptons with Jamie Lee Lynn or something. Meghan flew to the Hamptons with her to go to the G9 summit, and there were reports at the time. Reese Witherspoon was there. The Spanx founder you just mentioned was there. The Spanx founder was the only woman to take a photo with Meghan, but reports were circulating at the time that none of the other female entrepreneurs wanted their photo taken with Meghan there. And I think that I believe it a little bit more. Having seen the way that Americans reacted to With Love Meghan, and really the mainstream reacted to Meghan's show. I just really don't think that she has the relationships needed to attract the type of audience she wants, like you're talking about. Those Kardashian connectors, those Kardashian executors that are working behind the scenes to launch things like Good American and Skims and all those are absolutely the type of people. Reese Witherspoon with Hello Sunshine. Mindy Kaling she's already called in too many favors for poor Mindy Kaling and snapped at her over the last name Sussex. So that's probably a bridge burned. But where are the female founders that we actually want to hear from? And why would they give Meghan the time of day?
People who work really hard kind of have an allergy to people who don't work very hard but want all of
Yeah.
the spoils of said work. Reese Witherspoon recently sold Hello Sunshine for over $1 billion. I mean, these are women who, say what you will about them, whether you're fans of them or not, they work hard. They have created other revenue streams, knowing that they are actresses in an industry that has only recently begun to value maturing women. And Meghan, I think, just is recognized as like a sort of this loss leader in every single bucket you could think of. Reputationally, her authentic self does not seem to be in evidence and has not been since we've known her. She had no problem throwing the royal family and basically the entire country of England under the bus, accusing them of racism after Harry and Meghan were giving a $40 million plus wedding, and she was lauded as a great new addition, potentially one who could overshadow Kate Middleton. She has destroyed, in my estimation, every good thing that has come into her life. I think people see
Mm.
this, and I think people back away slowly because, as they say, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you everything about you.
Oh, yeah, that's the headline of this video. She's destroyed everything. Don't let me forget. I want to ask you before I let you go. I have a sneaking suspicion that Prince Harry is going to be mentioned the bare minimum when it comes to this podcast, because Meghan is so determined to convince us that she is self-made and that Prince Harry is not the reason that she has these opportunities today, which I will stress forever that he is. Meghan has no track record. The return on investment hasn't been there for anyone that has partnered with Meghan since she married Prince Harry. Um, her backing away from Prince Harry, us seeing him for 15 seconds on the series, little to no mentions on the podcast, which I predict. You've said this before. You've talked about how you feel like there is potentially a separation in the future. Do you feel like the more ambitious Meghan gets and the more she tries to prove herself independent from Prince Harry, does that confirm your suspicions to you?
It does. And Kinsey, so I have to tell you, I didn't get a chance to talk to you, I think, from the last time we did it and the launch of Michelle Obama's podcast with her brother. And
Yeah.
I listened to that, and again, it took me a couple of times because I did fall asleep halfway through that as well. But Michelle Obama and I think Meghan Markle have a really strange commonality. And that is they have rage at their husbands and rage at the marriage they made. In
Mhm.
both cases, these are two women who are grinders. There's this moment in Meghan's show where she's showing us her penmanship, her calligraphy, and she talks about how she got an A minus in class as a child, and she's still perseverating on this. Like, these women are like the proverbial A students, the nose to the grindstone. They study super hard. Things don't come easy to them, but they're determined to succeed. They're not particularly original characters. Like, I compare them to the kids in school who, like, yeah, they do well on the test, but when you talk about the material, they have not a single original thought to offer. They both married men who were already going places or had been ordained as a prince of the blood, charismatic, beloved. Things seem to come easy to them. People just like them. And I think each of them share this sort of contained rage. Well, why doesn't the public love me too? Why don't things come as easy to me? I'm
Mhm.
talented, I'm smart, I'm attractive like me. But they are so repellent because you can detect the rage just underneath the surface. And that is why Meghan Markle, no matter how many projects or podcasts or Netflix shows, will never connect to an audience. There is no hook there. There is no likability there. There is no true emotion or humility there. There is no there.
I already knew that because I read that article and I quoted you all over the world. I was like, well, my friend Maureen Callahan says, listen to Michelle Obama's new podcast and you'll see how much it's similar to Meghan Markle's. Two women
Oh,
trying to
wild.
escape their husbands because I love you. All right, agree with
Thank you.
us,
I love you
disagree with
too.
us. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Thanks so much for watching. And Maureen, it was so good to catch up with you. You're my favorite.
Oh, likewise, Kinsey. It was so great to catch up with you. I can't wait till next time and whatever Meghan has in store for us.
Always. Bye, guys.
As ever.